And welcome in to this edition of the Grind on Sports. I'm Wayne Kaiser alongside my teammate, Mr. Ben Metz. He's right there. And then right to my this way is the one and only Tony Ierulli, assistant football coach at Carson Newman University at the current moment, but a tenured college football coach in the profession. The names of Jimbo Fisher, the names of Bowden, those top names are in the lineage of Coach Tony Ierulli. Coach, thanks for the time as always. Another rendition here on the grind.
Well, it's great being with you guys, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk sports and football. And anytime I get that chance, instead of coming home and watching the home network, the shows and all that, this is a good thing for me right now.
Well, Coach, not to let you down, but you do have the XFL coming up, so I know that's probably high on your list.
Yes, no way I don't have to watch hours of soccer or something like that.
Oh yeah, but Coach, again, you've been on our radio show prior to the podcast game. You were on that multiple times, and we had a lot of great conversation. We may rehash some of those stories. I think they're good ones, so you might as well get the mileage out of them. Okay. But going to talk a little bit about real-time football, but really look back a little bit on your history and on your career there. But I guess the big thing is were you pulling for the Chiefs or the Eagles this past Sunday?
I was pulling for the Chiefs. I just like the Chiefs. I like the head coach and the players that they have there. And, half of my family was pulling for the Eagles. I mean, so it was a, good game. I mean, it was exciting. I just kind of hated the way it ended with having a little, I was pulling for the Chiefs, but being a defensive coach, I hated that pass interference call. I mean, that was such a non-type of call in that type of situation. It didn't impede the route. The ball was about 8-9 yards overthrown, and I hated for it to kind of end up like that. But I thought it was an outstanding game, two outstanding quarterbacks, and it was what you wanted in a Super Bowl.
Okay, so we have 9 questions now, Coach, to ask you.
Okay,
that was one of them. So,
yes,
I guess kind of looking at that play, and really, I think in that game, there was arguable, questionable catches and different things like that.
And that's football. So,
but
sometimes you get the calls, sometimes you don't.
Correct. But how much as a coach does it just kind of bother you that a game could be decided on a one call like that?
Well, that bothered me. And like I said, I was pulling for the Chiefs because, like I mentioned earlier that, they kind of ran into each other. It was within the 5-yard area. He moved away. There's a slight tug right there, but it didn't disrupt the route. I mean, the receiver still broke away. It wasn't a long type of pull or tug at the shirt. I mean, I can't see how that referee was even able to see that. And then, then the receiver went down the sideline and ball was 8-9 yards overthrown. And so, so as a defensive coach, that would bother me. As a Chiefs fan, yeah, fine. But, I was looking at it as a football coach. I just hated that type of call being made at that type of time.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, you guys agree with that? Or?
Yeah, Coach, I'm glad you brought that up. I played a lot of cornerback when I was in high school, sure. And I thought about exactly what you just said. The job that a cornerback has nowadays, it's a difficult job with RPO. You got that 5 yards. You got quarterbacks that they have mobility back there in the pocket. So when that play happened, I kind of had the same feelings as you did. So with the changes in the game, the evolution of the RPO, and being a defensive coach, like coaching those defensive ends and linebackers, have you kind of changed the way you coach those players?
Where it really affects, to me, is really your linebackers, because your Dip Butkus, your Singletary, Tony Ierulli type of linebackers that you're going to step up and plug the holes. I think that's kind of fade away. I mean, most of your linebackers type are really more like strong safeties. They're not quite as big, but we would used to line up our linebackers 3.5, 4 yards off the line of scrimmage. Now we move our linebackers up to 5 from the line of scrimmage. And we, with the RPOs, the quarterback, he's really reading the linebacker. If that linebacker goes with the flow, the quarterback's going to pass. If the linebacker sits, then he's going to go ahead and give the ball to the running back. And so what we've had to teach our linebackers to do is deepen their stance, kind of slow down their first initial movement, and then react to the ball. And so it's a lot, so your big, thick linebackers who's used to stepping up in the A and B gaps all the time, he's going to have a hard time competing with those type of routes, with those type of offensive philosophy. So that, to me, that's been the biggest change. A lot of defenses now, they're using 5 defensive backs. We got packages where we're using, 3 linemen and 3 linebackers and 5 defensive backs. So we have when we go to our 4-3 package, we have what we call our Fox defensive end, which is a kind of a tweener between a linebacker and a defensive lineman, where he's agile enough where he can go ahead and drop back in pass coverage, but still quick enough to go ahead and rush off the edge. So, as offenses changes, defenses have to adapt, and it's made it a lot more challenging on the defensive side of things.
So I always thought, so when Laura calls me a fox, you think I could play that position?
Well, she might be meaning something else, which maybe we shouldn't begin that type of discussion on the show here. All right.
Maybe.
I don't want to get involved with that type of stuff.
I was going to say.
Fox or Foxy, I'm not quite sure, but and that's really turned into your hybrid linebacker / defensive lineman, where, now that Fox end can go ahead and line up as a defensive end, but then snap ball, he's dropping back in coverage and competing against a running back or wide receiver. So he's got to be more of an athlete to do that.
So does it make those tweener guys, this is kind of off the pattern, but does this make some of those tweener guys that maybe they're a little undersized to be a defensive lineman, but really not quick enough to be a defensive back? Does it make it difficult to make a path for those kind of guys in today's game?
Well, now we specifically look for that type of guy, where, if we need to find a guy that's athletic enough that can rush off the edge, but still fast, now instead of you've got defensive linemen and linebackers, now you're kind of looking for that tweener type of guy that can kind of do both.
It's about that lateral quickness type thing.
Yeah. And being able to get out of your stance and drop back and compete with wide receivers. Obviously, you're not going to be using those guys to cover the deep third or anything like that, but be able to aggressively cover someone man coverage. But at the same time, we might use that Fox and line them up as paired up against the number 2 wide receiver, then rush him off the edge. And so he's got to be fast enough to be able to get pressure on the quarterback coming off the edge, disguising your type of coverage.
So
and Coach, our defensive coordinator, Carson Newman, Larry Slade, he does a great job of these type of concepts. And he's always working us, and we're always trying to evolve and make it just a little bit better, a little bit more understanding. When we first started putting our defensive package under Coach Slade, a lot of our guys were kind of confused because they never had really been involved in that type of coverage. And so as we've gone into it and as our defense has developed, then our guys are able to understand it a lot more quicker than it was, several years ago.
Coach Slade's got he's got a little big orange in his past too, so that's a cool guy there.
Coach Slade, Larry's he's probably the best defense coach I've ever been around. He's for a while there, he was not but the secondary coach in the country. With his time when he was the secondary coach at Washington, at Texas A&M, and then the 5-6 years he was over at Tennessee. He had a whole bunch of NFL guys coming from his coaching ability and all that. So, whenever Coach says something, believe me, I'm listening.
Well, Coach, talk about people you've been around, and I think that's a heavy statement. We're about to find out why. How does an Italian guy from basically Florida make his way to Maryville, Tennessee? I know it's been a winding road, but talk about from high school, state championship times to now.
Well, growing up, my family, my mom and my brothers, we moved down to an island off of Sarasota, Bradenton called Longboat Key, where my grandparents had moved down there in the late 50s. And we moved down there around 65, and my mother remarried and my sister was born a couple years later. But we really had a great family in terms of, we grew up playing baseball and football. I mean, we caught the bus at 7:30 in the morning. At 7 a.m., we were at a field right next to our house. We were either playing baseball or football, depending on the type of the year. Then when we come home, we'd play baseball, football with the neighborhood kids. And so my brothers and I, we were always around sports and athletics. And so we went ahead and went to Cardinal Mooney High School in Sarasota, won the state championship in '72. I had an outstanding career. I played baseball as well. I was probably a better baseball player than football player. And so I played both sports along with my brothers. So, we grew up, from the Little League era to the youth football era to the high school era. My brothers and I, there was always the Ierulli brothers. And then I graduated from high school, signed a scholarship to Manatee Junior College in Bradenton, Florida, where, it was just a great experience there. Give you an idea, we had remember Pee Wee Reese, who played for the Dodgers. His son, Mark Reese, was on our team. And so I remember Mark and I going to the baseball field one Sunday afternoon, and all of a sudden his dad shows up, and I'm on the mound pitching to Mark. Then all of a sudden, here comes Pee Wee. He comes out and says, "Hey, Tony, throw me some pitches." And so here I am standing on the mound throwing batting practice to Pee Wee Reese. Wow. And it's like the scene from The Natural. I says, "Yeah." I was saying, "Please don't hit him. Please don't hit him." So, that was a great experience. And so I injured my shoulder. I hit .310 my freshman year at the junior college. And I remember my very first college pitch thrown to me, I hit a home run. And so then I later injured my shoulder. Then ended up going to Maryville College because, if I saw that baseball was not going to be my future, I really thought that I would want to be a football coach, because the two big influences in my life was Bob Smithers and John Heath, who were my high school coaches at Cardinal Mooney High School. And so I wanted to go to a place where I could play football. My best friend, Mike Smith, was going to Maryville College. So by going to Maryville, I knew I could play both baseball and football, being a Division III program. And that's what I did. And we had some outstanding teams at Maryville College, great friends, friendships that still last today. And obviously the most important thing I did was meeting my wife, Carol. And we you
got to get that in, Coach. Don't
got to get that one in. We just celebrated our 47th Valentine's Day together. We met as freshmen, started dating right away, and we knew from the very beginning that we were meant for each other. And so we went ahead and graduated from Maryville College. Had great careers in both baseball and football. I think my overall career batting average in baseball was hit like 387 overall. Hit a grand slam against the University of Tennessee one time.
He continues to remind me of that, Ben.
Yes, down there, smacked the heck out of the ball.
And he used University. He used University of Tennessee. He made sure to just put the whole line out there for us.
That's right. That's right. Just want to remind the UT guys I'm talking about. And I think it was my junior year. I had 4 grand slams in 1 year. I hit 2 against. I hit a double header against Tennessee Tech. I hit 1 in each of them, and then I had another one in the game later on. So had a good career there. Football, I love football. We still have the all-time winningest 4-year period in Maryville College history. Playing on some great teams, and Steve Fickard and Jim Jordan were our head coaches, and it was just a great experience. And
hey, Coach, let me interject right there, because I thought in a previous show you shared this, and I think most of the listeners wouldn't know this. How you go from Florida to Maryville College, we didn't have all the small colleges in between Florida and Maryville back in the day, correct?
No, that's right. I mean, basically, if you played ball in Florida, if you didn't go to Florida, Florida State, Miami, Bethune-Cookman, Florida A&M, you had to go out of state. And in Georgia, all they had was Georgia Tech, Albany State, And I think that was it. I mean, so there was no Valdosta State. There was no Georgia Southern. Yeah. I mean, so the amount of talent we had on our football team at Maryville was outstanding. About half the team at Maryville College at that time were from Florida because
or New Jersey, right?
Or New Jersey. We had New Jersey. Those were our two big areas. And it was just from Florida guy, there was just nowhere to go. And so Maryville was really the closest small college football that was available to someone coming from Florida. So we had a whole bunch of kids from Miami. We had kids from Key West. We had kids from Sarasota, Bradenton, Tampa, Gainesville, Ocala. I mean, going up there to Maryville College. And that, so not only were the players from there, but it was talented players. Again, it's like the next step, was those 5 schools in Florida. Then you had to go out of state at a Division II or Division III program. And so my best friend Mike Smith, he and I grew up together, played together at Cardinal Mooney High School. He told me he was going to Maryville College. He was transferring from Leeds McRae. So he said, "Tony, you're coming with me." I said, "Okay." That's how I went up there, and it was just a great time. Met Carol. I always had to be a good guy because Carol's father was Eldridge Hurst was the head security guard at Maryville College, so I had to make sure I behaved myself. And which at times, I don't know how I did it, but I did. But
doesn't kill you, makes you stronger.
That's right. That's right. And my brother Dave went up there and played a couple of years, played baseball there for a couple of years. But like I said, the experience is great, and still my closest friends. Barry Mathis. You guys probably know Barry. David Evans, Derek Evans' father were teammates of mine. I've got great Tim Topham from this area as well. Just great people from this area that played at Maryville College and lifelong friends. So,
a couple questions I got for you, Coach, off that experience you had there is, number one, I played baseball and football. I've scored a touchdown and I've hit a home run. So I'm always curious from former athletes on this question. You probably know where I'm headed with this. Which one did you enjoy more in reflection when you would hit a home run versus when you would score a touchdown? Which one just meant more to you from an athlete's perspective?
Well, I would say, linebacker. I didn't score very many touchdowns. All right, except when I was in high school. Because to me, football is so much of a team type of sport. Just the accolades, the great memories you have, during practices or in the locker room, and your camaraderie with your teammates. But obviously, like I said, hitting that grand slam against Tennessee, was the University of Tennessee. All right, that's those are things like that. That one big moment where it's really just you rounding the bases, and I just love. I love both sports. Like I said, I was probably a better baseball player than football, but I knew deep down I want to eventually be a football coach, and that was probably the main reason why I ended up going to Maryville, because I wanted to play football. I felt like in order to be a football coach, and my dream was being a high school coach. All right, I needed to play college football, and that was the route I went.
Now, Pee Wee Reese, he was a scrappy hitter, so you had to pitch against him. How did that at bat go?
It was good. He's dressed in just kind of loafers. He's got those little round golfing hats around, and he just picks up a bag, grabs it, and every time I threw to him, it was like a line drive. Here's a double in the gap, all that, just sweet swing and all that. Well, Mark and I, being two young guys, we just try to muscle up and try to hit and crush the ball every time we swung the bat. But he was just such a smooth swing and all that. And that's my lifetime. That's one of the great memories I have is that hour I had throwing batting practice to Pee Wee Reese and thanking God every single day I never hit him in the head because he wasn't wearing a helmet. So every time I see that movie, the Field of Dreams, and he's pitching to Shoeless Joe Jackson, what goes in my mind is me pitching against Pee Wee Reese and all that.
Yeah.
So, Coach, All-American campaign there at Maryville College, and then you take off coaching again. started in the college ranks, kind of pick up, I believe, first stop was Missouri, correct?
No. I started off, Carol and I got married in June of 1980. All right. 1 month later, after a great vacation in Las Vegas and Yellowstone, we spent 1 week in Vegas.
Yeah, the park, not the show, right?
No show. We were at Vegas. I mean, we were in the MGM Grand and seeing all the big shows, Tony Bennett, Steve Martin, Frank Sinatra, all those people like that. Then the last week we're in Yellowstone where we're looking at moose, hoping that they're not chasing us like one did. I mean, so that was our honeymoon. Then about 2 weeks later, Carol and I, we load up the car and I took a graduate assistant job at Bowling Green State University in Ohio.
Bowling Green, that's right. Yeah.
That's right. And for the Mighty Falcons, Ziggy Zumba. All right, and spent a season there, and while we were there during the fall, Carol becomes pregnant with our firstborn Anthony, and like AJ, that's right, and but I was making a great salary of $212 a month being a GA. Carol got a teaching position. She, we didn't know how we were going to make it, financially. And Carol ran into a superintendent who in line of like a Walmart or a grocery store, and just talking to him in line. And he asked her to come on by for an interview. Carol got the interview and got the job. So that was, so she supported really me through my first several years as a coach. So anyways, Carol is pregnant with AJ, and then in January I get the job at Missouri as what they call a part-time assistant, which is really full-time work but part-time pay, making $500 a month. So I had to leave my 4-month pregnant wife in Bowling Green, Ohio, in northwestern Ohio, where it's flat and snowy all the time, to go to Missouri and be there for spring ball and spring practice and all that. I mean, that was hard.
And just to go along with what Coach is saying right here, I lived in Findlay, Ohio, Coach, and when he's talking about snowing all the time, that's an understatement. So it is piles and piles of snow.
Yeah, that part of Ohio. I mean, there's no hills between Ohio and Iowa. Between from Iowa to northwestern Ohio, I mean, it just flies right across, and so I mean, there's deep snow drifts all the time. So I left my wife there to start my job there, and so finally got through spring ball, and I picked Carol up. I got hired at the University of Missouri as a graduate defensive line coach, and went through spring ball. Picked up Carol. We drove on over to Missouri, got settled in over there. Still, Carol had to find a teaching position, and because I was making, I got a great raise. I went from $200 a month to $450 a month.
I mean, percentage-wise, that's great. Yeah,
I doubled my salary. That's why I keep telling Carol, I doubled my salary. In fact, my first 3 years of coaching, I made a total of $12,000.
Yeah, so what? You got 12 snowsuits in the closet, right?
There you go.
Dedication has to be there, right?
Yeah.
So talk about we've talked before about your time at Missouri and they were in the Big 8 conference at that time, correct?
Yeah, Big 8 conference right there. And let me just finish with the story with Carol. So anyway, we go to Missouri for Carol. She gets a teaching position. She's 8 months pregnant, and she's such a good, outstanding teacher. She gets a teaching position right there. We go back to Maryville to have the baby, all right, because she went to her family doctor, and the baby was due. AJ was due the last of July. Well, for some reason, Carol decides that the baby wasn't going to be born at that time, so she was like 3.5 weeks overdue. All right, so I had to leave there to go back to practice for fall practice, the 1st of August. Left my wife back in Maryville. All right, go through a week of fall practice. We decided to have labor reduced on the 21st of August. All right, AJ's born on the 21st of August. All right, and then what happens? Then Carol and I, we drive back to Missouri with a 1-week-old baby. She finds a babysitter in our area for a 1-week-old baby, and like 10 days after AJ's born, Carol's back teaching, full time and all
she's
that.
The toughest Ierulli, right?
Yeah. Believe me, I'm not even close to her, but that's because that was our only income. And, God bless her for that. So she reminds me every now and then, and I just smile and say, okay, yes, I'll buy you this nice ring for you because you deserve it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. But going to Missouri, we were back in the Big Eight. I mean, that was in the heyday of the Big Eight. We had Oklahoma with Barry Switzer, and
Tom Osborne at Nebraska.
Tom Osborne at Nebraska. We had what's his name? At Oklahoma State, used to be the head coach of Miami.
He's
on TV all the time.
Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy
Johnson. Yeah, he was at Oklahoma State, and so I mean, there was just great coaches that are going on in Nebraska. I mean, they were so loaded with, they had Turner Gill at quarterback. They had Roger Craig, Heisman Trophy winner at tailback. His backup was Mike Rozier. I'm sorry, Mike Rozier was the Heisman Trophy winner. Roger Craig, who was the great running back for the 49ers, he was the backup. And then you got Dave Remington, who's the Remington Award winner. The award named after. I mean, he's the center. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And going to those places was just unbelievable as well. And so I was there for 2 years as a graduate coach. Then my time was up there and finally got my first full-time job. All right. We went from University of Missouri to Salem College in West Virginia. So I went from $2,000 a year at Bowling Green to $5,000 a year at Missouri to now I'm just making $10,000 a year at Salem College. So everywhere I'm going, I'm doubling my salary.
I mean, your sales are going up.
I tell you what, my agent, he was really good for me. And so anyway, I go up there, and a guy that helped me out was Art Ogden. He used to be the head coach of Maryville College. He was up there on staff as well. And Terry Bowden was the head football coach, Bobby Bowden's son. He was 26 years old. I was 23 years old. And Salem College is stuck in the mountains of West Virginia between Clarksburg and Parkersburg. 500 people live in the entire town. When the Dairy Queen closed for the wintertime, that was 1/3 of the restaurants in the Salem that had closed down. And but we had 500 in the entire school, and we had great football players. I mean, those were the days when you had NAIA football, where we would get guys that would transfer from Division I schools into our place and be successful. We'd get kids that academically couldn't quite, their grades wasn't strong enough for them to go to a 4-year NCAA school, so they went to Salem. And so we just got some great teams. We went to national playoffs my last 2 years there. 2 years there. Our quarterback for our second and third year was a guy named Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo, was our quarterback. Great quarterback for us. I mean, if he was a 6'1", 6'2" quarterback, he would have been a Division I guy. But he's a 5'9", 5'10" quarterback. And he just was a very outstanding quarterback, along with the rest of our players. Our last year at Salem, school of 500. All right, we had 6 guys drafted in the NFL draft. That's when they still had, I think, 16 rounds or 14 rounds in the NFL draft. So we had a lot of talent on that team, and we just had great success there. And catch my breath.
So Jimbo it doesn't surprise me he was a signal caller. He likes to talk.
Yeah, he likes controlling all. Well, Jimbo played at Clarksburg, West Virginia. And in fact, he went to Clemson his first year to play baseball. And he may not have made the team or something like that, decided to come back. And so I recruited Clarksburg, and I told Terry that, he's back. So we went after him and convinced him to come he was looking at going possibly to Fairmont State, but we convinced him to come to the metropolis of Salem, West Virginia. And so he went there, and we ended up winning 8 or 9 games those last 2 years there, and went to the national playoffs each year, and really had great success.
Good deal. Good deal. So, Coach, then from Salem, is that when you followed Terry to Samford?
Not quite. Had a 2-year intermission. So what Terry did, he left to go Sanford from Maryville to become the head coach at Akron under Jerry Faust for 2 years. He was assistant coach there.
Were they the Zips at that time, or did they change? Had they?
What's that?
Were they the Zips still then?
Yeah, they were the Zips back then. And so for 2 years, Terry realized he didn't like being an assistant coach. So in the meantime, I went to a place called Susquehanna University in the middle of Pennsylvania, which we really had a great time up there. Carol and I went up there. We had our daughter, Katie, in Salem. And so we went up there to Susquehanna
that
University.
name is it's on the National Spelling Bee, I would assume, every year.
The Susquehanna River, north of Harrisburg.
I think I had some Susquehanna last night with mashed potatoes and gravy, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, and like I said, but it's a great town. We had a great time there for 2 years. I was not only I was the defensive coordinator and also the head baseball coach there. And
so your money got real big then.
That's right. I think I went to $16,000. And so went up there, had a blast. Those guys are a little nervous because they had an Italian fiery head coach as baseball. First time that anyone's ever saw baseball players do up downs for missing the ball. And but no, we were real successful. We won the championship. I think 2 out of 3 years I was there. Football, we went from it was kind of funny. When I was at Maryville College, my freshman year, the year before Maryville College did not win a game, and they my freshman year won seven games. At the time, that was the biggest turnover ever in Division III history. So I go up to Susquehanna, and I think the first year, the year before I got there, they had only won 2 games. Well, then we won 10 games that first year, and we broke the record, which was Maryville's record for the biggest turnaround from one season by winning 8 games in 1 year, the turnover. So we had some great teams, great players there. Rocky Reese was the head football coach, best coach, one of the most dearest friends I've ever been around. It was the head football coach there. And so I was up there for 2 years. Then Terry gets a job at Sanford University and called me to go down there to be the linebacker coach and the recruiting coordinator at Sanford, which was just a great experience, with the 6-7 years that we spent there in Alabama.
Well, and you've kept a lot of those relationships going at multiple of these locations, but especially Sanford. I saw on Facebook you made some returns down there for some award ceremonies and just some reunions.
Yeah, I put together a big reunion here a couple of years ago through the summer, and they've never really gotten a chance to really bring back a lot of the players. So, I mentioned it, and somehow I ended up being the coordinator of it. And
no good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah, and every time something like that happens, Carol rolls her eyes because she knows when something event happens, I usually want to get involved somehow, some way, and end up being involved in the whole thing. And so, we had a great return. We had a return all of our players, a lot of our players from that we call the Bowden Alsop era. Sanford had won the national championship like in 1975 for that level of football. Then about 4 or 5 years later, they dropped football for about 15, 18 years. Then they brought it back. Wow. And so Sanford, it's probably the most beautiful campus you ever be at. But the thing is, we had such great quality kids. I mean, we were getting the kids from the country parts of Alabama to the city parts of Florida. I mean, all the way, different environments and all that. And so all those kids have turned out to be really good kids, good adults, good fathers, good husbands, good businessmen. And it's really awesome seeing the success we've had with those Sanford players. And so many of them have turned into outstanding coaches coaching in Alabama. And so it was
one to be specific, right? One that you did, was it you umpired baseball, softball with?
Yeah. Well, since I was, I went from $16,000 a year at Susquehanna, where I really got a great raise, going to Sanford. I was making $18,000 a year. All right. So since I had so much free time on hand, I decided, hey, I lived in Pelham, Alabama, which is just south of Birmingham. and I said, hey, I want to go ahead and umpire Little League baseball games during that time. So, they paid pretty well at that time, and, umpire games. No one gave me too much lip because then they knew I could probably meet them after the game outside the gate and get after them. And so I had a lot of fun. Well, for 2 years, there was this guy that, he had just graduated a couple of years from Pelham, Alabama, and is a walk-on at Alabama. Always came back to make some extra money. And so for 2 years, I umpired with this guy named Dabo Sweeney. And I know you probably haven't heard of him before. But
not lately. I think he knows some things about hamburgers last time.
Yeah, something like that. So, but he's, so we would umpire a lot of games together in Pelham, and we made a couple of road trips, going out to the country areas and umpiring games. I mean, he's just a great guy. And I'll say this thing about Dabo is this. A lot of times when head coaches become head coaches, their personality changes. Mm-hmm. All right. I know a few. You've mentioned a few. All right. All right. There's one guy that I've met that he's the same type of guy that he was when he was a younger guy, and that's Dabo Sweeney.
Wow.
I mean, this is a good-hearted, sincere young man who's extremely humbled for the opportunity that he has and is just a great guy. And he came from a family background that, they didn't have very much going on and with family-wise and all that. And every single thing he has done, he has earned. Wow. And, strong, devout Christian, if anyone challenges his Christian faith, they're not going to, and what he does in terms of being a leader and demonstrating that faith to his players, I mean, he's not going to back down. And so we had a chance, to umpire some games and, had to have some great stories. Dabo, one time, we're umpiring a game. I'm first base, and it was a bang play, and I called the guy out, and the fans started yelling at me, and they said, well, let's run that Yankee out of town. I don't like this. Then Dabo's behind the plate, and the pitcher throws the ball hits the back part of the plate, and he calls it a strike. All right. And all the fans were, oh, that's okay, Dabo. You'll get it right next time. I mean, they just
because they loved him, yeah.
They loved him and all that. And they're ready to run me out of town. But Dabo, I mean, you can't do no wrong with Dabo. And
I mean, you were from further south than where you were at the moment, probably.
Yeah,
Florida, so you were actually more southern than they were.
Yeah. But the thing is, I don't talk like a southerner.
Right.
I talk like a guy from the Chicago area. And so, but yeah, it was great. And like I said, it was a great experience there. Then, in the meantime, I got a chance, couple springs, not the USFL. I want to say it's a league, not the USFL, but it was another spring.
The American Football League, was it? Is that it?
Yeah, it was like it was in the mid 90s. Chan Gailey was the head coach of the Birmingham Barracudas of the league, and so I went ahead and helped him out as a quality control coach, and did some work in the spring and all that. So I had a chance to do a few other things besides just coaching on the college level. Helping out on some pro teams, and so that was good. And so I was there for 6 years. Terry gets the job at Auburn. Unfortunately, I was not able to go with him. He kept most of his defensive staff there. That was part of the deal, him going down there. So I remained at Sanford for another year or two before I moved on to Shippensburg University in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. And then up in Shippensburg, that's I think that was about the time AJ was he was kind of high school age. Is that correct?
Yeah, he was high school age. I mean, I got three great kids. Of course, Kelly was born. Again, here's another thing. Kelly was born 1 week before we had to move to Sanford. So she was born in Pennsylvania. She's barely she's only been in the house about 4 days. And so then we traveled down to Alabama from Pennsylvania, on the next move. So Kelly's born in Pennsylvania, but she actually was there as a youth only for about 4 days until we returned back to Shippensburg and all that. But our experience at Shippensburg was great. I mean, AJ was starting high school. I got the girls involved. Katie was a cheerleader, Kelly was she played field hockey and golf, and so they're all very active in sports. Carol spent most of the time, keeping an eye on them. She was teaching. I was finally starting to make a decent salary over at Shippensburg. So many places, it's hard to remember. And Rocky Reese hired me as his defense coordinator and recruiting coordinator. And we had some great teams. We had outstanding players. We had about 4 or 5 players go on the NFL. A couple of them, John Kuhn, who's the fullback for the Packers for about 10 years. He had a great career over there. Brett Grimes, who played for the Dolphins and Tampa Bay Bucks as a corner, had a great career there. But we really had some really nice seasons, and and Rocky really did a great job with that career. And so we were there from 96 to 2002. Carol was busy teaching. We had a nice house, nice home. Then I got the call to become the head coach of Maryville College, which that meant we were coming back home with Carol's family is still there, and AJ had started off at Maryville and finished up at Shippensburg. Katie was down there as going to school there, so we moved down there and starting the 2003 season. I was the head coach there for 9 seasons. Had some great success at a school that really didn't finance that football program the way they should have. I mean, everything was we almost had to sell raffle tickets to get some barbecues just in order for we could meet a recruiting budget or anything like that. But we played well. We had some good seasons. Very close with a lot of the players. I mean, just look. The coaching tree coming from the era I was there. I mean, you look at Derek Hunt at Maryville. All right. You look at who else? Paul Shelton, who's the head coach at South Doyle High School. Derek Rang, who's the head coach over at Oak Ridge. We got the Price brothers up at Campbell County. And, I counted a couple of weeks ago from that Maryville tree, I've got about 24 that are head high school coaches somewhere along. So it's really good, and tells that we really had great kids in that Maryville program. And so I was just really proud to be the head coach there for 9 seasons. Then, surprising to me and surprising a lot of people, a couple, I'll keep my comments quiet, deciding that I didn't need to be the head coach there. So then the first guy that picked up the phone to call me was Ken Sparks, got me up there to be the assistant coach up there at Carson Newman, and been up there for 11 years.
And Coach, it's a winding road, but one that if at the last stop or at the current stop at least has Ken Sparks attached to it, I think that's probably a road worth taking. But Coach, talk about a little bit about Carol. We'll talk about Ken in just a second. But a couple years ago, what Miss Carol did for you for the T-shirts, I thought that was pretty cool.
Which one are you talking about? The T-shirts
for a T-shirt for every place you had coached.
Oh, okay, yeah. It was for Christmas. Because he's done a lot of things. T-shirts, yeah. Every place, for Christmas, I think, or one of the events. She and the kids got a T-shirt for every place I had been a coach at. So she got me a football shirt for Carson Newman, but for Shippensburg, for Susquehanna, for Salem College, and all that. And so that was really kind of neat. I'll still pull them up, and I'll come out one day with the Susquehanna football shirt, or the University, especially the University of Missouri shirt. I definitely like that. But yeah, it's really it's a testament of to be a coach's wife. I mean, you got to be a very special person. And for everything that Carol has done in terms of allowing me to be a football coach, in 43 years now as a college coach. I mean, I don't make it unless, Carol's my wife. I mean, most of the time, I mean, she was the breadwinner. And she went above and beyond the situation I told you about with, when AJ was born, what she did, and Kelly being only there, born only about a week before us moving down to Alabama. I mean, that's what she's done. I mean, it's kind of funny, before really the internet took place on things like that, I bought 2 houses with Carol never ever seeing the house. I'm at a place
and you're
in the
still
spring.
alive to tell about it. That's good. That's
Yeah, it's still alive. She would ask me what the carpet looked like, and I would say, ooh, I'm not quite sure. Brown, blue, I'm not sure. But yeah, I bought 2 houses with Carol never seen it because she was still, 1,000 miles away teaching, and I'm down somewhere else coaching. I got to have a house by the time she gets done teaching to move family in, and so did that twice. And I tell you what, you talk about having guts. I'd almost rather charge a line of gunfire than do that very often. And so, so that's one of the things that we've had to do to allow me to become a football coach in the college ranks.
And coach at Carson Newman University, I guess when you took that position, it was Carson Newman College. And so, I mean, Ken Sparks there, the legend that he is, a 300+ game winner. What was it like to kind of be on staff with Ken Sparks?
Well, first of all, being at Carson Newman is such a wonderful experience. I mean, you've got a college institution that's got the right plan in terms of developing young men and women towards a Christian fatherhood, motherhood, family development at an institution. I mean, it's not one of these woke universities that, unfortunately, so many have turned to. I mean, it's a family, faith. We get all sorts of players. They come from broken families or 2-parent families. Really not that many anymore. But we want the kids coming to Carson Newman that by the time they finish Carson Newman, they have developed themselves spiritually, all right, to whatever level they start off to where they are, develop themselves as a man, as a future father, as a husband. And that's what us as coaches always strive for. And, there's times where we have to close the door behind us and have a heart-to-heart talk with these young men. And but then when we see our players, we got right behind the stand called Mossy Creek. And we usually go down there once or twice a year. When you see a player or two go down to Mossy Creek and with our minister gets baptized in the name of Jesus Christ. I mean, that's something that's so heart-wrenching. And what that kid was like when he first got to Carson Newman, maybe from a broken home, had very little faith in Jesus Christ or the scriptures. And all of a sudden, 2-3 years later, you're seeing a whole different type of young man. I mean, that's what Carson Newman's all about. Yeah, we want to win football games. Yes, we want them to do well. But for them knowing that we're going to play an influence in their lives so that not where they are 4 or 5 years after they graduate, but where they are 20, 30, 40 years after they graduate and see the young men they are. That's what Carson Newman is all about. And, and that's what satisfies me. What satisfies me is, it's great seeing these guys that I've coached doing well, but all of a sudden you see guys that, like the Sanford guys, that they come from broken homes out in the backwoods of Alabama. And now they've got an outstanding business and making lots of money and living in houses a lot better than I am. And they're doing so well. And so that's what coaching is about. But most importantly, that's what Carson Newman's about. And Ken Sparks led the way to just being a great leader, mentor to so many people, including myself. And, and he believed in the Lord Jesus Christ, setting the way. And, and he certainly has led the way for many people, including myself. I'm a better man for being up here at Carson Newman. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. And Coach, I'll tell you this, like one thing that you shared throughout that history, and this is just really a compliment to you, a compliment to Carol and your kids, is I can tell just in hearing that history that your drive throughout your whole career was building relationships and meeting new young men and meeting new people and just building on that year after year. And you continue to do that today. And that's just a compliment to your character, I appreciate you for sharing it. I mean, it just really speaks volumes about you. But I want to shift gears. I'm gonna ask you a football question here, because I'm a very
okay, good. Enough about me.
Yeah. So a lot of defenses now, you'll see formations where they bring 3, drop 4, or they won't. I've started to develop an opinion where I think, okay, in most defensive coverages, if you're disguising blitz packages, whatever it may be, I can very rarely see situations where you only bring 3 defenders on the quarterback with this RPO. But I'm curious, from your perspective, do you like philosophies of bringing more than 4 defenders on the quarterback in the backfield, or do you see times where it is important to only bring 3 defensive linemen on the quarterback and drop more defenders back in the backfield?
Yeah, I think I've evolved where I used to be just a very standard type guy. I used to like blitzing. Our defense coordinator, Carl Reese, I remember we played Nebraska, and we had 75 defensive snaps and 61 were blitzes. All right, against Nebraska. Wow. His philosophy was when in doubt, blitz. And that's kind of basically the way I was. But I think in today's game, in today's game, I think if you're stuck on one type of a defense and all that, you're going to get yourself in trouble. So you've got to be multiple. You've got to be able, and I like to be aggressive. I like zero type of coverage and going blitzes, but you've got to be able to, do the field zone type of blitzes where you're bringing 4 or 5 from a side, but you're dropping the backside into coverage. And so you're constantly trying to figure out ways based on their formations, how to outflank them, based on their formations. And there's a lot of times, we'll call adjust. And so just based on the offensive formation, our linebackers will call out a defensive strength, either right or left. And, we're coming in that direction. And so, so we're doing a lot of type of defensive things that it's not going in right when the coach singles it in, but it's really letting our linebackers, and that's why, especially our linebackers, they've got to be really smart and intelligent on being able to figure out what, defensive offense fronts we're looking at, and to call the type of stunt or blitz that we call for that play based on that formation. And so we don't, if they're sliding their offense based on formation, their offensive line to the right side, we don't want that blitz coming from that right side. We want that blitz coming from the backside. And right. So it's really turned into, a chess match more often than not. But, but I think you got to have blitzes, obviously, but you've got to be able to mix in with your blitzes, zero blitz, which means it's man up. All right. That if one guy gets busted, you're probably going to give up a big play, or you're man free, where now you got that free safety over the top to help out, or your zone blitz. And you got to be able to really implement all 3. So to play defense nowadays, it's a little bit more complicated. Mm-hmm. That's why I knew that when I had a choice to play offense and defense, when I first went to Maryville College, I knew I wanted to play defense because I didn't have to think as much. Now I might want to be on the offensive side because, there's a lot of thinking going on the defensive side.
Yeah, I brought my son home from football last night, and he said, "Dad, I want to play defensive football. I like defensive football." I go, "Why, son?" He goes, "Because on offense, you got to remember too much. I like
that's right
to be played."
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, there's sometimes I walk out of defensive meetings and I'm saying, God, how are these guys even remembering it? But you got to do it because if you stay in a base type of front or coverage, and the offenses are way too smart now, and the quarterbacks in their development, they know how to go and attack that type of front or your package, and then you're in trouble because you're not able to adjust. So you've got to be able to, have a 3-man front, 4-man front, 3-man front with 6 defensive backs, all these different type of packages. It's, and we go through it. And like I said, Coach Slade is an expert at putting these packages together. And so, that's where we are right now.
So, Coach, speaking of thinking too much, sometimes I think rules committees might think too much. What would you call a rule that what rule during your time as a coach has helped the game the most? And then what's hurt the game the most?
Well, I'm just going to say, to me, targeting both ends.
Oh, you're just going to stick it to one.
Yeah, I'm going to stick to one.
You
See,
had
now
something to do with it.
I was on the NCAA committee that first introduced the rules committee that first introduced targeting. This was back in about 2008, and so where it gets, we were seeing a lot of video of wide receivers against a cover two deep, where the receiver's doing an outside release and the ball is being thrown in that void area between the corner and the safety. And the safety, he's not even looking at the ball. He's just running and launching and just to take the head of those wide receivers. And it's just amazing those wide receivers didn't come out with broken necks or some serious type of injuries where, they're being taken straight to the hospital and not being able to be moved again. And the defensive backs were not even playing the ball. And so we wanted to do that to take away. So we that's when the targeting rule first kind of started, was during the time when I was on the AFCA rules committee and the NCAA rules committee. And so, I mean, that's what it did. But what's happened, it's evolved. It keeps evolving, to where now if that receiver went across the middle, I say, yeah, I understand that. But sometimes, it's ridiculous. I mean, I saw a couple penalties on targeting where the running back zoned up right into the B gap. Linebacker stepped up to make a hit while the helmets collided, and the linebacker was called for targeting. I mean, they're taking, football is a tough man sport. And sometimes, and I understand trying to take the helmet out of it. I get it. But sometimes, I think it's gone, way overboard on a few things. And so, if they would just kind of get back a little bit more to reality and be able to really look at the rules and seeing what's part of the game, what isn't part of the game, going and try to break a guy's neck on an illegal hit, yes, all right. But sometimes just going up and playing football, what happened is that you'd get a big old quarterback that could run like what we see, and all of a sudden he's not scrambling, he's lowering his head into the linebacker, all right. But the linebacker, he gets charged for targeting because he's the defensive guys, and so I think that's one area that they need to look at. But I enjoyed my time on the rules committee. I mean, one of the rules I call the Tony Ierulli rule, which AJ hates. All right, first of all, the rule committee said we have to meet on changing these rules because we got to take away all the rules that University of Miami broke in the 80s. All right, those are the wild days of the 80s that there were no rules. And so my rule that I kind of authored was the taunting rule, where the receiver catches the ball, he's bass everyone, and he turns around about the 10, 15-yard line, sticks the ball up and starts waving at everyone and taunting them, and all that goes through.
So you're not a fan of prime time? Is that what
No,
I'm getting?
No, unless he's off on the sideline. So so we changed the rule from now that becomes a spot foul, takes away the touchdown, and plus it's 15 yards penalty from the spot where you did that. Well, isn't it amazing that after that rule came out that all of a sudden you don't see that anymore?
No.
Right. And they wait till they're out of the end zone doing all that. All right. But, and I'm not real big on all the things that goes on in the end zone after they score a touchdown, but, that's just me. But,
old school. I got you.
A little old school. Another rule I kind of authored was the one that they would line up with three men on the center on PAT field goals and just blow up that poor center or blow up that guard trying to block the kick. And they changed that to where now you're only allowed to have one guy in a gap. And so there were some good rules that was changed during the time I was there.
Wow.
That's awesome. So, Coach, very much like our radio time, you know what we're going to have with you?
Round two.
We're going to have an episode 2 with the Coach Tony Ierulli. But I do have one last thing that I wanted to bring up. And I do think it's fair because there was a lot of things in your coaching career we talked about, but there was one thing that we didn't talk about. And it's really, I just want to know what it would take to get this thing back. and it's the Tony Ierulli stash. I just feel like this was a good for you, Coach. There's some playing day picks, and then the middle one is the Coach Ierulli pick.
Man,
there was a good stash back in the day.
That's a beautiful.
That was a Tom Selleck look. Well, if the stash wouldn't go gray, all right, I probably would be still wearing the stash. But
so tell the story about how you had a Fu Manchu there at Maryville College, as one of the pictures showed. But
when you're a 5'9" linebacker, all right, you gotta try at least look mean. All right, so that's why I had the stash there. Yes.
Oh man, I like the neck roll that goes along with the stash. You got that neck roll there as a linebacker.
That's right. It was a 2-collar neck roll because when I would it got to the point where whenever I tackled with my left shoulder, I would pinch a nerve in my neck. So I didn't have the single neck roll. I had the double neck roll. Ooh. So that whenever I would hit, I'd have it all protected. So I had the stash. I had the double neck roll. I ran the 40 in about 5'5", and so I was believe me, I was your A-B gap linebacker.
There you go.
And I appreciate you finding those pictures of me. Really good.
I will say,
remember, Italians have a way to get back.
Hey, Facebook's a beautiful thing. Hey,
that's right. I'm going on Facebook to find yours right away. You better lock me out.
Yeah, here's the thing: I'm ugly whether I got a mustache or not, Coach. So it's good. But Coach, man, what I've heard a lot of that stuff before, but it's still just the winding road of careers, or whatever path that is very interesting. But the fact that you were in a bunch of different states, you worked with a bunch of different coaches, and just by, you talked about your coaching tree at Maryville, but just the coaching trees that you were a part of. That's some lineage that not many people get to walk in those shoes. And it's cool to talk through it with you. And again, from a state champion in high school and to now being, like you said, a molder of young men, I get to see transformations on the football field, but probably more importantly off the football field. That's just cool.
And that's why I love it. Like I said, I just completed my 43rd year as a college football coach. Not too many people are doing that. And I still feel like I can go another 5 to 7 years. And so I love coaching football, but I love the thought that knowing the fact that somewhere down the line that kid coming from a broken home who doesn't have very little faith in Jesus Christ, who academically struggles, who socially struggles, then seeing that kid 15, 20 years from now being a great father, being a great husband, being successful. That's why coaches, should be getting coaching, not to go make that big money, which of course would be nice. All right. But still, that's what for. And that's why, I stay in a lot of contact with guys on Facebook and all that, and seeing their families and they know what Tony Ierulli is all about. And again, I'm blessed because I've got a great family with AJ, Katie, and Kelly, and their spouses and my grandchildren. I'm, you guys know them, and I'm very fortunate to having just a great family to be around, and that's where my blessing is and all that.
Well, Coach, like I said, you've kind of expelled some blessings on other people too. But I appreciate you talking with us. Like I said, we're going to go ahead and get the ink ready, get you signed up for episode number 2. But really need some more down the Coach Ierulli path. So,
well, I appreciate it. Let me just say one thing. I really feel like my family is blessed because not only do I feel like we've got 3 great kids, but they married 3 great spouses. Sure. And Nathan and Joe and Tracy. We would not have the family we have today if our children did not have those 3 as their I don't know what we call spouses, husbands, wives, whoever is called like. But that's where our blessing is, and seeing those 7 great. One day that's going to be happening to you guys. Carol and I, we don't have any money saved because Carol spends it all on the grandkids. All they got to do is say something to Carol, and she's buying them something. And, which
is the way it should be, right?
Yeah. Hey, I can't argue with that. I say go for it. So, but it's great being with you guys, and I look forward to having an opportunity to be with you guys again.
We will do it. It's a done deal. But, Coach, as we did on radio, we're going to sign it off. For Coach Tony Ierulli, Ben Metz, I'm Wayne Kaiser, and this has been The Grind. But until next time, guys, take care, be safe, and yes, grind on.